Although hard to believe now, back when Langston Hughes was alive, he wasn't liked for a few main reasons. First of all, of course, he lived in a time where blacks were poorly treated and discriminated against. For this reason, Langston Hughes wrote poetry aimed at inspiring poor blacks like him to step up and realize that they are equal to whites. One poem he portrays this in is I Too, where he writes, "They will see how beautiful I am, and be ashamed I too am America." These lines are at the end of the poem, where he is trying to show the deeper message in the poem, which is that whites will one day be ashamed of the way they treated blacks because, like the whites, they too are American, and Americans are all beautiful. This way of writing led to harsh criticism from almost all critics, including blacks. He received harsh criticism from all whites and rich blacks, stating that his writing only relates to poor black people, which isn't the case. Aside from his desire to inspire poor blacks to fight for his status in society, he incorporates two other intertwining ideas into many poems he wrote. These two ideas are the ideas of racial passing and his sexuality. Racial passing by itself is extremely evident in the poem Cross, where he writes, "My old man died in a fine big house. My ma died in a shack. I wonder where I'm going to die, being neither white or black." Here he shows he is mulatto, which means being both black and white. And he shows in these lines how he is lost in life since he isn't either white or black. His tone in this poem shows how being neither white or black has made his life much harder and confusing, since most people are one or the other, not both. Aside from his poetry, this confusion in life is shown in his autobiography, The Big Sea, where he writes about himself leaving America on a ship back to Africa. While he is on the trip, he throws all of his books overboard, or his immediate past, in an effort to erase all the hard times of being discriminated against for being black, and travels back to his greater past, or his African descent. When he arrived, he was greeted not in the way he expected. The Africans did not believe he was Negro, and proclaimed he was a white man. In this story, Hughes shows the struggle in life that he faced, being neither white or black, which he also shows in the poem Cross. Like he is lost, being neither white or black, he also faces another very controversial topic at the time, which was sexuality. Back then, being homosexual wasn't really a thing, and Hughes struggled with his sexuality. He never stated whether he is straight or not through poetry, interviews, or anything, and the mystery will stay unanswered. This style of leaving readers questioning was popular in his poetry. Like in Cross, where he leaves the answer to the mulatto's fate unknown, he also asks many questions in poems and doesn't answer them fully. One example is concerning his sexuality in the poem Cafe 3 a.m., where he states, "Degenerates, some folks say, but God, nature, or somebody made them that way. Police lady or lesbian, over there, where?" In these words, he both uses an open question and the use of sexuality in the comparison of a police lady to a lesbian, since being a cop is a man's job. So he brings up the term lesbian to represent her, but doesn't confirm that it is a police lady or a lesbian. This poem shows how, although it could seem to be a racial poem, saying how God made them that way, the bottom three lines confirm it is about homosexuality. One last piece of evidence is true confirmation of sexuality being a controversial part of his life, in his first novel, Not Without Laughter, where he speaks with another male and this conversation occurs. "Won't it hurt you?" I said. And this I is Langston Hughes, and he is just the guy he's talking to. I don't really know. So he says, "Won't it hurt you?" I said. "Not unless it's square," he said. "Are you square?" "Could be," I said. "Let's see," he said. Another term for being heterosexual is straight, and a square has straight sides but isn't straight entirely, so this sets a confusing mood right away. But that isn't the main idea behind the quote, which is the fact that he isn't sure if he is straight or not. This may be a true confusion in Hughes' life, or he may know, but this part of the novel is all a big and confusing mystery. Overall, the two main themes Hughes writes about are racial equality in passing, or the change from being white to black, and homosexuality. Although his writing mainly appealed to poor blacks at the time he was writing, he is now regarded as one of the best poets, loved by many for being extremely creative and effective. In my opinion, I think all of his work is just pure genius, with an amazing incorporation of multiple themes and poems, and his method of portraying his messages are so effective and creative. I definitely agree he's one of the best poets. In the first line, Langston Hughes explains how his father is a white man, and he uses alliteration with the M's through line 2 to emphasize on them being his mother and father. He does this to lead to the theme of being both white and black. Then in lines 3 and 5, uses parallelism, stating what he would do if he ever cursed his mom or dad. He uses this device to emphasize on them both being an equal part of him, so he uses the same phrase for both his mom and dad. Then when he answers his if statements, he only uses one line with very little emotion to apologize to his father, but uses two more emotion-filled lines for his mother. He does this to emphasize on how poorly blacks were treated, especially women, and for this reason he feels much worse about being mean to her. He also uses assonance with the letter E for false rhythm and a smooth and sweet connotation, since he truly feels sorry for his mom, and even uses repetition with the word wish to show how if he understood what she was going through, he really would have been nicer. Finally, the last 4 lines are all mainly based around the theme of the poem. He starts off with a comparison between his mother and father's deaths. He states that his white father died in a fine big house and his black mom died in a shack. He uses completely opposite phrases to compare his two parents to emphasize on them both being total opposites. This also reveals a very small extra theme, which is that opposites attract. And that may not have been his intention, but that message does come out a bit through those lines. The final 2 lines are a question, which is common to Hughes' style, since he leaves the reader wondering, or with no answers. Also, he truly didn't know where he would die when he was writing this, but that is just a literal interpretation. The deeper meaning behind these lines is to show how being different from most, or only partly similar to one and partly similar to another, is difficult. When you are in this situation, you often feel lost, and wonder things like, which one am I more a part of, or which should I try and hang out with or be like more? When you think of Hughes' answer to this question, it is apparent through his other poems, which is the fact that he writes for the blacks. This style may also be the reason why he apologizes more to his black mom than his white dad, because he believes he is truly more black and for the blacks. Hughes' style makes the reader think, like I am now, and thus makes him much more interesting in my opinion. Overall, the theme is when you are different than others, you may feel lost at times, but you must always remember you are also similar to others and that you can find your way. This poem portrays Hughes' common style of leaving readers wondering with the use of questions and no answers, as well as parallelism to compare each of his sides, black and white, and although not evident in this poem, his other split sides of homosexuality and heterosexuality. Both of these traits he portrays through poems to be split between, which is his consistent style, and way of sending a message to the reader. Lastly, since the title of the poem is Cross, what he's trying to say through the title is that he is a cross between both black and white, and also a cross of being both homosexual and heterosexual.
A Biography of Langston Hughes by Sidney and Nathaniel. Hughes was born February 1st, 1902 in Joplin, Missouri. He was the second child in his family. His parents divorced when he was really little, so his mother sent him to live with his grandparents. He moved to Kansas to live with them until 1915. Then, he moved to Illinois to live with his mother. He first began writing when he wrote his first verse in 8th grade, and that's where his passion truly began. Before beginning high school, he moved to Ohio. Hughes and his father did not have the greatest relationship, as they always got into arguments and greatly disapproved of each other. His father then left for Mexico in order to avoid the extreme racism going on and to start his law firm. His father leaving really impacted him and his work. The Negro Speaks of Rivers was Hughes' first famous work, which he wrote in 1920. Langston said that he wrote it while traveling to Mexico. His train passed the Mississippi River and he began to think of what the river meant to the Negroes, which led to the writing of the poem. He recalled that Abraham Lincoln wrote about seeing Negroes in slavery being brought to cross the river. Many years later, he started going to college at Columbia University, but later he left after a year due to racial prejudice. Then, in 1926, he finished up his college education at Lincoln University. He formed a jazz and blues writing lifestyle, and his poems were greatly influenced by all his traveling. His career was not so easygoing though. He was constantly criticized for being rude about black culture, even though he wasn't. Hughes attempted to advance the black culture by using his desire for equality to fuel his inspiration for poems. In fact, he loved the black culture so much that the poem, I Too Sing America, is completely about his love for it. He had so many messages in his poems, but the main recurring message is about how everyone should be equal and how he carries no shame for being black. Langston Hughes claimed that his main influences were Paul Laurence Dunbar, Carl Sandburg, and Walt Whitman. He gained a lot of popularity from the three plays he wrote, Mulatto, Little Ham, and Emperor Piety. Hughes also gained tons of popularity when he started writing for the Chicago Defender. He also created the character Simple, who was a humorous character and used him to allow readers to visualize how a person in the society lived. Hughes won the Spingarn Medal for all his fabulous works, and he became the most widely read black poet. Sadly, Langston Hughes died May 22, 1967, after an unsuccessful abdominal surgery. His friends and family only played jazz and blues music at his funeral to honor his memory. After his death, his works still gained popularity. His poetry became very popular, and he was the only African American who made his career through poetry only. His works became extremely influential during the Harlem Renaissance because they truly stressed the importance of racial consciousness. Langston Hughes became known to the African Americans as a poet of the people.
A Dream Deferred by Langston Hughes. Okay. In the poem A Dream Deferred by Langston Hughes, there is a bunch of similes present. For example, one of the similes is, does it dry up like a raisin in the sun? Drying up would represent the death or the ending of a dream. Another example of a simile in this poem is in the line, or crust over in sugar like a syrupy sweet. This is a simile because the dreams aren't being chased after or pursued. So you see the imagery of the crust and sugar over, like sugary sweet. So that's one of the similes. And then also there is a metaphor present in the end of the poem when it says, maybe it sags like a heavy load or does it explode. When something explodes, all of it is gone, nothing to be retrieved. And when you don't pursue your dreams, you can't find them again. So when something explodes, there's nothing left, there's no debris, it's just all gone. And that's what happened to your dreams when you don't chase after them. Also, there's a lot of symbolism in this poem, such as when talking about dreams. A dream symbolizes our future and what we strive for in life. And if we don't follow those emotions and those thoughts, then we will be lost. We won't have anything worth striving for. So in the end, a dream represents what you're striving after and what your goal is in for life. Okay, moving on to the theme. The theme of this poem is that are dreams really dreams if they aren't pursued? Because if you don't pursue your dreams, then they're just distant memories and recurring, and they disappear from our minds. Oh my god. Okay, if it doesn't chase after your dreams, then they're just distant memories and like reoccurring things we need to strive for. Chase after what you believe in, otherwise your dreams will never be sought after and you'll have nothing to strive for in life. It's almost like saying, what's the point of being here if you have nothing to go after?